Ah, bonsoir, mockers. J'adore la mockers. Ça va? Ça va bien, merci. Et toi? Ah, j'adore. Ah, okay. Hey, how are we all doing? We have a video today. I don't know why I decided to start it like that. Is it because I just drank a Red Bull? Yes. Hello. Welcome back to today's video. We are going to be talking... Now I want to talk French for the rest of this with my limited French. Today we're going to be talking about Jake Doolittle and Ethan Klein and what is going on. I have been seeing that there has been a situation and I just didn't dive into it. And now I'm diving into it. So Jake Doolittle posted a video on Ethan Klein, and it has been a very hot topic. I've not watched it yet. I have actually watched the first like 4-ish minutes, and then I turned it off because I was like, if I'm gonna watch this, I want to talk about it as well. So I've gotten like 4 minutes in, and the start of it was a little bit iffy. I like Jake. I've talked with Jake. I like Ethan. Talked with I don't have any problems with either of these people. Before we get into this and people are like, oh my god, there's a bias here, literally people could be like, there's a bias for Ethan, and then there's people would be like, there's a bias for Jake. Let me have an opinion, okay? Fuck, damn it. So we're gonna get to the video, but before we get to that, H3 have been on their break, as we are aware, and Ethan posted this, which is an Instagram story, and it says, my face when I'm excited to return to the podcast tomorrow, same time, same place. They've been on a break, and this is a photo of Jake Doolittle. Now, Jake Doolittle responded to this and said this, let me get to this. I will do anything to make this stop. The death threats telling me to, myself, and saying I was never sick in the first place is something I cannot handle. I was trying to make a video from the perspective of a sick person and it didn't connect with everyone. I was in the hospital last week after posting the video. I legitimately cannot handle anymore. I apologize to everyone involved. So that is what has happened within the last couple hours, and I've seen that on the Reddit. They posted this and they're talking about it, and a lot of people are saying, death threats and harassment is unacceptable. That being said, Ethan is entitled to poke fun at someone who came after him. If he doesn't cross that line, he doesn't. He didn't name him or link him in his post, blah, 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 blah. We just have a lot of people on here saying, quoting Jake saying, I will do anything to make this stop. And someone said, my brother in Christ, your video is still available on YouTube. And that is true, which is why I'm still able to watch it like a week into this. Someone from H3 crew told him not to post it beforehand. They knew that it would make Jake look bad. They didn't want him getting the hate, but instead of listening, he called them out in the video, and now he's getting shit on by H3. He's had 3 weeks of attention without any response. He isn't deleting the video. He doesn't want them to make a public response because it would get him hate. Your actions have consequences. That's what I don't understand. He was a fan of the show and actually had people on the H3 crew telling him not to release it. Probably to get him to not stir up, controversy, blah, 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 blah. All right, so very interesting takes going on here. This one looks long. We'll read this one and then we'll go on. I'm sorry Jake's sick and people on the internet are being mean to him. I also have a chronic pain condition and actually researched cyber stalking and harassment. After having been a victim myself for many years, I can certainly empathize with that. Death threats and harassment are never acceptable. That doesn't make his argument good, logical, coherent, or fair. It also doesn't discount the fact that he tries to manipulatively appeal to authority by pointing out that he contributes to charity or has an illness himself. Having an illness doesn't make you an authority on an illness. This is a broad span between being a patient and an advocate. His argument was not cohesive. He failed to prove Ethan has committed any sort of scam beyond his own vagueness and strange interpretations. Most of Jake's examples actually contradicted his own narrative, undermining the idea that Ethan was lying about having lupus, considering in almost every clip shown he was stating that he didn't have it. He also misrepresents the process of being diagnosed with chronic illness, which can take a long time. He claims that Ethan was self-diagnosing, despite the fact that in many clips he is stating, even acknowledged by Jake, that he was talking to many different specialists. The framing overall was dishonest. Maybe it wasn't intentional. He is allowed to be offended by what Ethan says, but he uploaded a bad video. He's a channel with over 200,000 subscribers and a substantial presence on social media. Ethan and H3 are bigger, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a right to defend themselves or poke fun at their critics. Jake is an adult, and when you post your opinions on the internet, you face criticism, and your name is attached to it. You should expect criticism. There's a difference between not connecting with people and being wrong. And I would say he is for the most part wrong. He also likes to poison that as well, as he did in the video by stating that people dropped out of being interviewed because they were afraid of their safety, and plays the victim a lot. That doesn't mean he deserves to be harassed. Please leave him with just constructive criticism and move on. Sorry, I need to burp. That Red Bull's coming up again. All right, let's get to the video. I'm going to watch this in 2x speed. It's a 40-minute video. I do not watch a video that's longer than 20 minutes if it's not on 2x speed. You know it well. I know a lot of my audience are very same. Ah, j'adore la moqueuse. J'adore. Ah, oui, oui. All right, let's get to it. So basically what I've gathered is that this video is from Jake, clearly. J'adore. And is saying that Ethan misrepresented or used being sick in some way. We'll watch and we'll get to it. All right. I
would like to preface it with a few things. Leading up to this video, I was a huge fan of the H3 podcast. When I was at my sickest, the podcast was always something that I could watch to make me feel less alone. I even remember saving up money for my first job ever to buy multiple Teddy Fresh items. More recently, I was on the podcast speaking to Ethan about an unrelated subject. I left VidCon to attend their most recent live show, and I'm also friendly with a few of their crew members. But I saw a few very concerning things when it comes to Ethan Klein's lupus journey. And as someone who's been sick his entire life, I felt like I needed to make this video. Not only have I dealt with chronic illness, but I run a nonprofit where I support people financially who are sick and struggling. As a viewer of the podcast, if I were to stand back and watch Ethan lie, saying certain things about his health that are just straight up misinformation, then I'd be doing a disservice to an entire community. My goal in making this video is not to do anything but address what I've seen from Ethan and his behavior. Ethan Klein claimed to have lupus, made money off of it, and then admitted that he made everything up and self-diagnosed himself. As I'm recording this, yesterday, I posted a teaser to this video and I've received more backlash than I've gotten in a very long time. So much so that somebody from the H3 crew direct messaged me and called me insane for thinking this. I also want it to be known that I understand the other side of things. I get that dealing with health problems can be a very scary time in someone's life, but when the health problems that Ethan Klein is talking about are completely diagnosed with zero symptoms.
That's a crazy start to a video, isn't it? My teaser for this video has gotten me more hate than anything, and the H3 members, one of the team members is reaching out being like, do not make this video. That's a crazy intro to a video. Okay, well, we are obviously in for an insane 43 minutes.
So you have to ask yourself, why is he doing this? On June 16th, 2023, Ethan live-streamed an episode of his show, The H3 Podcast. The episode was going fine until Ethan said something unexpected.
This morning I thought I had cancer for sure, I'm not gonna lie.
This morning? What happened this morning?
I got something.
I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. I'll do 1.75. Fine, I'll do 1.75. Or 1.75. Okay.
I had weird blood values when I just did the whole blood work to test my cholesterol and stuff was fine. My white blood cells and platelet counts were high. So my doctor was like, it's probably nothing, but I can send you to a hematologist.
Well, I mean, I watched the H3. I watched the H3. Sound like an old person. I watched the H3 show, and I actually saw this episode, and I actually was following, more specifically on Ethan's own channel where he was uploading, him talking about his health struggles. And I mean, from my point of view, I was interested to hear the journey of going for tests and stuff, because obviously I would hate for Ethan to have gotten that diagnosis that he thought he got. Now, I have seen people's tweets where they've kind of summarized this video and they're talking about that Ethan didn't have what he said he had. And I mean, obviously I'll have a more formed opinion at the end of this, but already my opinion is that Ethan Klein does what we all do when we get a cough or we feel sick or something, which is, unfortunately, we all have a tendency to Google diagnose ourselves or self-diagnose ourselves or think the worst case scenario. I think the only difference is Ethan has a huge platform in which he was verbally saying this, but I mean, I don't think it's any different to if I would call my mom and say those things. Obviously, he has a platform. He was keeping his audience up to date. I don't think I ever saw a clip of him saying that he had lupus or anything like that. He was testing for it and all these different things. Obviously, I'll have a more formed opinion in a second. I don't think that Ethan did anything wrong at all, because it's something that I've literally done whenever I've been sick in the past. And also, I think that we have creators online that literally lie about having cancer or literally lie about having lupus, and they do it for, you know, attention or monetary gain, which is what Jake is saying that Ethan did here. So let me hear the argument. But I'm aware that there are creators that do this, and from my understanding of watching Ethan, I haven't seen him do what those creators do, but I'm willing to hear a different opinion. But again, it just kind of feels like we all do this, and if this entire video is about Ethan going back and forth talking about might have this, might have that, I don't know why this video was made, because I mean, he's not, like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, yeah, he has a platform, but like, okay, he has a platform and he was just keeping his whatever.
We did a whole bunch of tests. That was, early this week, and they started coming in. And so, like, here's one, tryptase. A lot of this stuff has to do with, like, leukemia.
Saying that an elevated tryptase relates to leukemia is like saying that sneezing relates to sinus cancer. Ethan states that he went to check on his cholesterol levels and then seemingly read his own lab results and self-diagnosed himself based off of Google searches. He goes on to talk about a more recent test result that came in. This test is the one that Ethan runs with throughout this entire journey.
My Anna titer. This is also like leukemia and lupus and shit.
First, Anna titer makes no sense. The part that Ethan calls ANA stands for anti-nuclear antibodies. It's an acronym that Ethan pronounces ANA instead of ANA like most every medical professional does. This also adds to my claim of Ethan Ethan searching his labs and not hearing the results from an actual doctor due to the mispronunciation. According to the Mayo Clinic, in most cases, a positive ANA test indicates that your immune system has launched a misdirected attack on your own tissue. In other words, an autoimmune reaction, meaning this could have been from anything, including asthma, allergies, the common cold, or even eczema. Keep eczema in mind throughout this video.
My levels are fucking insane, and the note says homogeneous and speckled, exclamation.
Homogeneous and speckled is an interesting finding, but this doesn't mean anything more than a lab result. In doing research, yes, homogeneous and speckled can mean a specific type of lupus, but there have also been many ANA test results that come back homogeneous and speckled where the diagnosis turned out to be eczema.
Well, I'll tell you just so you don't get worried.
Okay.
I wrote the doctor this morning. I was like, I'm super stressed out. Like, what's going on with these? And he just wrote me back.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel a little better. And actually, this morning I had a conversation with Chat GPT that made me feel a little better too.
A conversation.
Oh boy.
I did. I said, yo, doctor, it doesn't seem like good results on the taste test. I'm stressing about it. And he said, it's not a very high elevation. I would not be stressed about it. Still waiting for the molecular studies. Chat GPT was like, it's probably not leukemia.
Oh, good.
It could be lupus, but I don't have enough.
Reaching out to your doctor after looking at lab results is exactly what they're there for. And the doctor said that there was nothing to worry about. But according to Ethan, ChatGPT made him feel better, saying it's not leukemia, but it could still be lupus. I put this to the test when talking to ChatGPT with the same lab result.
Okay. In most situations, if people had a health concern rise, we Google. We Google, we look up, we stress, we think worst case scenario. I don't see anything wrong with Ethan doing this. They're on live stream like every day for like 5 hours, whatever the fuck. And let me tell you something, as someone who does online creation, more specifically like vlogging, it's very hard to live a life and be online talking or providing content for so long of the day and not give you an update on what's going on in our life. I mean, fuck me, in my vlog channel, sit me in front of a camera for 20 minutes and I'm oversharing about situationships that have went wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to make that much content at a quick rotation and not give life updates or not talk about things that are on your mind. So I'm going to be honest, I don't see anything wrong with Ethan saying this. He's, you know, he's saying things that he was told, and then he's like, and then I Googled it, and it could be this or it could be that. I don't necessarily see that as an issue. You could say that he's stressing his audience out. Okay, well, he's probably very stressed as well, but you know what I mean? It's the biggest crime is that he has a platform here, but I don't necessarily think that there's any issue with, obviously it's not a great thing when you self-diagnose on Google or something, but fuck me, I've done it before. I stress out, I whatever, you know, I think this is a bit much, but again, we have 40 minutes left, so.
The chatbot consistently says, talk to your doctor and basically don't take anything it's saying as fact, which Ethan had to ignore to get to this point. And from this point on is when Ethan Klein runs with this ChatGPT lupus diagnosis. Very quickly, let's talk about what lupus is. Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that can affect multiple organs and systems within the body. Symptoms include fatigue, joint pain and swelling, skin rashes, fever, kidney problems, chest pain.
Fun music in the background, right?
Periods of flares, where symptoms worsen, and remissions, where symptoms improve or disappear. Diagnosis of lupus can be complex due to the variability of symptoms and the fact that they can resemble other conditions. Doctors often rely on a combination of physical exams, medical history, blood tests, and sometimes imaging or organ biopsy to confirm a lupus diagnosis. Oh, and just like Ethan, I also forgot to mention it affects 90% women, being 2 to 3 times more prevalent among African American, Hispanic/Latina, Asian American, Native American, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian, and other Pacific Islander women than among white women. With all that being said, now that you know a little bit about what lupus is, let's go back to someone who admittedly doesn't know what lupus is.
I didn't know what the fuck lupus is. Lupus symptoms. I wasn't really. I'll take lupus over fucking cancer. Lupus symptoms includes muscle and joint pain, no. Fever, no. Rashes, sometimes I get on my face, but it's been gone for a while. Chest pain, no. Hair loss, I mean, look at me. Sun or light sensitivity, no. Kidney problems, mouth sores, prolonged or extreme fatigue. Anemia, I don't have anemia in the blood test. Memory problems.
Oh, weird.
I have no symptoms.
Wow.
So ChatGPT is like, because you have no symptoms, like leukemia and lupus usually are accompanied with symptoms, and it's hard for me to
So what could it be? That's crazy.
Ela, that's a phenomenal question to ask. What could it be? With most lupus diagnoses being based off of symptoms, and according to Ethan, he has none whatsoever, you would think this would be the end of the AI lupus diagnosis. But boy, is that wrong.
Because at first it was like my blood platelets were super high and my white blood cells were super high.
And that means one of those?
Not super high, I guess, but it was above the normal. And my original general doctor was like, it could be that you just have high values on that, and it's fine. You can see my platelets are pretty high, 530. A certain type of white blood cell is just a little bit high, just a little bit over the norm. You get down to the trispate. This one stressed me out because it's almost double the normal range. Hopefully the doctors are listening.
You know what I mean? This clip is them talking about their life, and this is something that's going on in their life right now. I just don't feel the need to dissect it. It is what it is. These things happen in life, and you talk about them. I'm aware that there's an argument coming up soon on why this is wrong that he's doing it, but at this stage right now, I just feel that this is being completely blown out of proportion.
One fucked me up. It says the normal value is between 1 to 40 and 1 to 80, minus 1 to 320. The lab that did this, they wrote an exclamation in red after this shit.
So did he give you a reasoning why, or?
Not yet. He says it's not a very high elevation. I would not be stressed about it. Still waiting for the molecular study, so I guess there's more test results he's still waiting on. But the good news is my cholesterol's fine. I don't die of cancer before I have a heart attack. So the weird thing about this is that I did a blood test a year ago.
Yeah.
And my platelets and white blood cells were elevated back then too. Ethan is being a little bit hypochondriac. Are you fucking kidding, dude? No, this isn't hypochondriac. Stop it.
According to Ethan, in the past, he has had lab results where his white blood cell count was elevated, which I believe is connected to his GERD diagnosis because, well, later in this video, his doctor says it is. Also, saying that you're not a hypochondriac and then following it up with this is wild.
Well, the good news is if I do have cancer, because I'm not symptomatic at all. So if I do, we caught it, I guess, earlier than I would have if I started having symptoms. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I think this idea of cancer seems unlikely based on what ChatGPT told me, and the doctor told me not to worry, so I'm trusting him on that one. But if you look up all the ones I'm abnormal for, it all is like you have leukemia or lupus. I'll take lupus any day, bro. Hit me with that lupus.
Hit me with that lupus. Not only undermines people who have lupus's experiences, but also makes it seem like a lupus diagnosis is an easy thing to come by. Also, he just said the idea of cancer seems unlikely based on what ChatGPT told him. But he follows up by saying, according to ChatGPT, he has leukemia or lupus.
This idea of cancer seems unlikely based on what ChatGPT told me. But if you look up all the ones I'm abnormal for, it all is like you have leukemia or lupus.
Listen, I understand that where, Ethan should not say that. He should not say, I'll take this over that. You shouldn't wish for any of these. But I think contextually, we're dealing with someone who in the moment is hit with the thought that they may have cancer or they may have lupus. You know what I mean? Obviously, this is not something that I think anyone should say, but I'm trying to be sympathetic to how I would act in this, and I feel like I would act very similar to Ethan, where you get stressed the fuck out. Obviously, Ethan has a platform, and you need to be careful and stuff like that, but I think dissecting it like this actually does a bigger problem than just what Ethan said. I don't know.
It also suggested Sjogren's syndrome. The ChatGPT suggested that. I don't know what the fuck that is.
These chronic illnesses like Sjogren's syndrome that Ethan keeps thinking he has are predominantly in women, which he fails to mention multiple times. According to Johns Hopkins, most people who are diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome are 40 and older, and women are as much as 10 times more likely to develop it than men. I'm not saying it's impossible to be diagnosed with it as a man, but you would think that if Ethan did any amount of research or spoke to a doctor instead of ChatGPT, his worries would be lessened. Also, with 0 symptoms, his likelihood of having any of these things is so much smaller.
Oh God, my boyfriend passed away from lupus within a year of being diagnosed. Sarah, don't say that. Block her.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Mute her,
I'm
please.
sorry to hear that. What the hell?
I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't know it was that serious.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's serious.
Because when I read about lupus, it said I guess 90% of people survive, which is not, I know, great, but
It's not cancer.
it's not cancer. Yeah, and it's treatable. It says people who get it treated can live a normal lifespan.
I mean, yeah, lupus is treatable in some situations, yes, and Ethan's wealth would make the process much easier. But somebody donated and said that their boyfriend died shortly after a lupus diagnosis, and instead of empathizing, Ethan spews out more ChatGPT info he's received and says people who get it treated can live a normal lifespan. Getting into the next episode that Ethan talks about his health in, we get a few updates on...
Again, could be definitely an argument of Ethan shouldn't have said that, but I think from the select clips that Jake is showing us, it's very clear that this is information that they're actively Googling and actively finding out in the moment and having a conversation about live on air discovering. Obviously, you can be like, should they be having that on air? Yes or no? But again, this is like podcasts they do for 5 hours, and if this is all someone's thinking about because it's their real life, which is what's happening to Ethan, it's going to come up and they're going to talk about it. Again, you can nitpick every little thing, but listen, I didn't think I was going to ride so hard for Ethan in this video, but come on now. You're
what could be going on.
So I have 2 doctors. I've got my general doctor and my hematologist now, and I've been messaging them both panicking. So let's see who got back to me. I mean, I'm so fucked. What is not wrong with me? Okay, now he says regarding the lab, the ANA is something interesting. Take this with a grain of salt with all the patient's symptoms before interpreting it. I think we're looking for a plausible GI issue, but then you see as some of these diseases can elevate ANA, like possibly the esophagitis. Yeah, I'm waiting for the hematologist, but he made me feel better on Friday when he messaged me. He says, I don't think this is a new and separate problem than the one we discussed.
Oh no. Ethan had already spoken to his doctor about his levels, and the general doctor said that it's most likely an esophageal issue, which Ethan has had problems with for a long amount of time. But a new diagnosis seems to almost excite Ethan, so much so that he runs with these claims for over a month after his general doctor said it's not something more than his prior diagnosis.
You're better. I love my doctor, by the way. He's so awesome. He's so nice. It's so nice to have a good doctor who I just trust trust him that he knows what he's talking about and gets back to me. And
Ethan claims to trust his doctor.
I mean that if we're going to dissect Ethan for saying little comments here and there, then Jake also saying that Ethan seems excited for a new diagnosis is also something that you would, dissect as not being a good statement to make. I just think this is very why was this made? You know what I mean?
And like him a lot, but on the other hand, ChatGPT is giving a new exciting diagnosis. So I'll ask you again, why is he doing this?
Donations and empathy.
His health problems, he received $1,550.42 in donations. These were either relating to his health or gifted memberships during the time where he expressed his medical anxieties. Some of those donations gave better advice than ChatGPT did, but Ethan seemed to ignore them. They included things like, Ethan, don't look too closely at your labs. I'm a nurse, and they're often slightly low or elevated based on different factors. An exclamation mark just means abnormal, but 2 exclamation marks means critical. Or don't look too much into it. Wait for the doctor, please. And I'm a nurse, and the context of your overall health is so important to understanding labs. I know it's hard. Try to be patient and trust that your MD will evaluate the full picture. Sometimes things will be elevated at baseline. Some of these donations were even from people struggling with lupus or other illnesses telling Ethan not to worry about his labs. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in here for a little bit because people online are saying that nobody with lupus or chronic illness actually donated to Ethan thinking that he was actually sick. I wanted to read all of them. I went through thousands of donations over the 2 to 3 months that Ethan was doing this.
This is just a portion of them. I recorded myself reading all of the donations from people who are chronically ill, and then it turned out to be like 8 minutes long, so here's a spreadsheet.
$20 on June 16th. I had cancer, dudes.
Damn,
So advanced these days, and if you catch it early, chef's kiss. $10 June 19th. I have esophageal esophagitis and acid reflux. It is pretty consistent with your coughing up. I would get an upper endoscopy, and if you can, get a sleep study. $5 July 25th. I just found out I have stage 3 kidney disease, chronic illness.
This isn't Ethan. If people donated to a YouTube chat, then they donated to a YouTube chat. Like, have you seen how many donations they get on the daily? Like,
It was probably cancer. I also got the results before my providers. If I were Ethan, I would feel terrible for receiving donations from people who have a confirmed diagnosis of something I don't. But he continues to do this for months to come.
Well, you've inspired me. I'm going to get a full panel checkup over our break. So.
I hope all you guys go do it if you can, because it's really important. You just go in there. It's easy once a year. I mean, it could save your life. Genuinely, it could save your fucking life.
Thankfully, we have good health insurance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, and well, hopefully you guys do too. Otherwise, then I guess you're just gonna have to fucking die broken without doctors.
Jesus.
What are you saying, man? Ethan said this after already hearing about a fan's boyfriend tragically passing after receiving a lupus diagnosis. This is not the only time he says something about how having money gives you more resources for complicated health problems, but later he takes offense when people accuse him of being in a better health situation if he has money.
You're rich. You'll be fine. Is that true? Is that it?
Now we move on to the next episode where I'm not kidding you. He reads a fan's Reddit post talking about how they have cancer and makes it about himself.
I saw a post on the subreddit, and I just want to give a shout out real quick at the top to a fan who was just diagnosed with cancer. You know, I got yeah, my heart goes out. He says, I've been watching history all my life.
Diagnosed with cancer, LOL. Is the
I get the vibe though. Like, I get it. That's kind of how I felt on Monday.
Is that how you felt Monday? Because as I remember it, you were diagnosed with nothing new. The only thing the doctor actually acknowledged was a prior diagnosis Ethan has had for a while.
He says, I don't think this is a new and separate problem.
I just think this is so nitpicky. I think health concerns are so valid across the board. 10, 10, 10 across the board. I think they're so valid, and I think it's also problematic to come at someone for being concerned. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, we have a fan opening up to Ethan being like, just got diagnosed with cancer, LOL. Like, they're setting it up in this kind of way, and Ethan's like, oh, like, the way you're phrasing this is how I felt whenever I was like, shit, I might have something. I don't see anything inherently problematic with that. I'm going to be honest.
Than the one we discussed. That's kind of how I felt on Monday.
Right.
And I haven't heard back from my hematologist, so.
I feel like that's probably good news.
He's still waiting, I guess, on some test results that haven't come in.
Okay. Because I say if it's really bad, they'll like kind of be in a hurry to tell you, right?
Yeah, but he's still waiting. By the way, this person has cancer, and I'm making it all about me.
I agree. Moving past this, apparently Ethan asked one of his crew members to ask their family member who's in the medical field what they thought about his lab results, and this was their response.
Did your family member get back to you?
He did, but
he mentioned my
I'm not gonna
titter?
like it because
Notice how she says you're not going to like his answer? Could it be that she knows that Ethan has his mind set on a lupus diagnosis and this medical professional doesn't support that claim?
I'll just send you the screenshots.
It's not good, is it?
It's not good or bad. He said
Lady
it's
just framed it very scary, but no, it's not.
no. Oh, because I said you're not gonna like it. He said it's basically inconclusive. It depends heavily on the clinical context. A lot of people have positive ANAs and are perfectly normal, and some providers don't even order them because there are so many false positives. And
What about the titter?
What about the titter? The ANA test that Ethan received is the titter. The titer part of titter that Ethan has been talking about literally just measures the presence and amount of antibodies in the blood. This would be like if a doctor said Ethan was 5'6" and Ethan questioned the doctor's tool of measurement.
But anyway, the point is, I'm going to read it because I want to send love to this person. I've been watching history all my life and found this channel to actually lift me out of many depressive episodes. That being said, and I don't even know why I'm wasting my little life. Come on. I have left on Reddit to post my feelings. It didn't take you that long to write this. Right? But anyways, I'm just typing words as I'm thinking. Cancer sucks. My grandma, then my mom, and now me are going to probably die from it. And honestly, it's funny hearing jokes about it. See? And it takes away from the everyday nature of thinking about dying. God, I love you, H3 fam. No homo.
No homo.
And I hope the podcast.
No homo.
And I hope the podcast lives on for many years after I'm gone. Well, I don't know what your situation is, but we love you. And if there's a chance to beat it, I hope you do.
The person who posted on Reddit said, he'll most likely die. And Ethan says, I hope you beat it, which I find so funny because Ethan is the exact type of person to get mad at someone for telling him, I'm sure you're fine. Oh.
I'm sure you're fine. But
Why? You're not sure of that?
I'm sure.
Again, I think it's contextually. I mean, we have a fan opening up on Reddit and they're like making jokes about it, and also like they saying that this is how they deal with it. So Ethan made a joke in return. Again, this is incredibly nitpicky, and I think that this video actually causes more harm than what Ethan is supposedly doing. Like,
I know.
What do you mean you're sure? I don't like when people say that.
I'm sure.
Why are you sure? What gives you the right to tell me that?
In the next episode of his members only podcast, Ethan gives us a dramatic telling of what's going on.
All right, here's what's going on. So I'm going in on Tuesday for a blood test follow-up, and I'm being referred to a rheumatologist, which, if you don't know, is a doctor that specializes in autoimmune disease. So it seems I don't think it's cancer, but I think there's a significant possibility that I have an autoimmune disease, and even more possible, it seems that it might be lupus.
No, Ethan, that's not how that works. Just because you were referred to a doctor doesn't mean that you're diagnosed with something in the field that they specialize in. Also, Ethan said it's even more possible that he has lupus, but from what he shared, that information has not come from a medical professional, only Chat GPT.
I think I might have fucking lupus. But the weird thing is that I don't really have significant clinical symptoms.
You can tell how disconnected this take is because, as we will later find out, lupus can be a very difficult.
but again, Ethan is like saying he thinks, and then he goes, but I don't know because I don't have symptoms. Like, again, this is just like talking about health and having an open conversation about it, which actually I would argue is probably better than not having a conversation at all. You know what I mean?
difficult and stressful diagnosis to get.
That's the weird part about all this, and I guess it's making it hard for them to diagnose because we caught this whole thing by accident. I mean, I was just doing a random checkup, just for health. I hadn't done it in a while, and we switched to a new insurance company, which I'm glad they did because they're so much better. If I was with Kaiser, I don't think I ever would have gone through all this stuff because the bureaucracy is so insane.
I'm going to try to ignore the insanely privileged take that Ethan gave at the end there, saying that the Kaiser Permanente health system wouldn't have helped him, the same health plan that 13 million other Americans are on.
And also his employees. Every single one of his employees are on Kaiser through Ethan's benefit package.
I mean, what does this guy want? People to not have insurance and die?
Thankfully, we have good health insurance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. And well, hopefully you guys do too. Otherwise, then I guess you're just gonna have to fucking die broke and without doctors.
Die! Jesus. Moving on from this, I want to focus more on him saying that there are 0 symptoms. It is very, very rare to have a lupus diagnosis with no symptoms at all. Not saying it's impossible, but with all the other things I've mentioned going against him, Ethan's lupus glory seems to be getting farther and farther away.
My only, I guess, symptom is that.
I mean, the way Jake is phrasing this as well can be deemed problematic. He's saying like lupus glory. He's excited for this diagnosis and stuff. That's equally as problematic. Oh my God.
I kept getting rashes. We thought it was from the fika fish. So I'm getting really mild rashes on my face. You guys remember the one I had a while ago? And I've been getting just slight rashes here and here. They'll go away. They're really slight, but that's a symptom of autoimmune disease. Other than that.
Wait, now you have symptoms?
I don't really have significant clinical symptoms.
We can either take this one of 2 ways. Ethan conveniently forgot to mention his symptoms over the last month or so, or he's scrambling to mention things that could be perceived as symptoms. Rashes on his face could be a sign of lupus, or it could be eczema. Jeez, I keep bringing up eczema. It's almost like that's what it could be.
Any bone issues? No, that's the thing. I don't have joint pain. I don't have bone pain. I don't have fuzzy vision. I don't have loss of vision. I don't have any of that shit. I have a feeling I have lupus. I don't know why. Have you considered you're faking it? I wish, man. I don't know how to fake a blood test, but I wish I could. Oh yeah, so that's another thing, like tingling in the extremities. I don't have anything like that. I don't have any fucking really symptoms. Like I said, the only reason we caught this is just pure chance.
So again, from my perspective, Ethan's being honest about, I think I have this, but like, I don't have the symptoms.
Away from the topic at hand, but what does your mom have? Don't you think if autoimmune disease runs in your family and your mom has ulcerative colitis, you would at least know how to pronounce it?
My guess is Lyme. Shut up, Sam. Why do you say that? Lyme? I don't think Lyme disease can cause elevated antititer. I mean, ask Chat GPT. I've been doing a lot of chatting with Chat GPT about this. You know what I mean? Can Lyme disease cause elevated antititer? Lyme disease caused by bacteria. It's not typically associated with a rise in antititer. Yeah, I don't think it's Lyme disease. There's not even really Lyme disease here in LA. I think there's like 5 people like a year get Lyme disease in LA or less. Yeah, exactly. There's 0 Lyme disease in California. It's like super, super rare.
Okay, this one struck close to home. If this is your first video that you've seen of mine, I've been sick ever since I was 3 years old. Over the span of 10 years, I was misdiagnosed over and over, in and out of wheelchairs, until I got diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. Ethan Klein just had a whole lot of information about a disease that he's completely uneducated on. His ChatGPT said that Lyme disease isn't likely to cause an elevated ANA, but I asked ChatGPT myself, and it said the complete opposite, almost as if diagnosing via AI chatbots isn't always a reliable way to get medical information. I am walking proof of someone who had a positive ANA from Lyme disease. Chronic Lyme is actually very likely to branch off into other autoimmune diseases. Like in my experience, I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, an immune deficiency disorder, and a bunch of other stuff that, to be honest, I don't remember because I was 12 years old and I was trying not to kill myself. According to Los Angeles Public Health, the number of confirmed Lyme disease cases in Los Angeles County has varied from 0 to 8 cases a year. But in the same article, they say the diagnosis of Lyme disease may be difficult because of many other diseases that cause symptoms such as fever, headache, fatigue, and body ache. Laboratory tests are often not sensitive, specific, or consistent and are frequently misinterpreted.
Okay, so I did tell ChatGPT my symptoms, and ChatGPT also thinks the most likely diagnosis is lupus. But there's a chance that I don't have anything and it's just a fluke. But that's I'll be honest. I want to be optimistic about it, but that doesn't make sense to me because there's just too many different signals going off in my blood work. You know what I mean?
This clip brings me so much joy because you will find out at the end of this video that this is a complete lie. ChatGPT never thought that the most likely diagnosis was lupus. Ever. And Ethan outs himself in the worst way possible. But we have to keep on addressing these claims until we can get to that part. Trust me, it's really bad. The only thing that would be worse would be like Ethan ranking diseases on how much he wants them or something like that.
If I had to pick one, if I had to pick a disease out of a hat between MS and lupus, Dan, can you do a poll? What would you guys rather have, MS or lupus? Because I feel like maybe I might rather have lupus. You know what I mean? Let's do a poll. Which autoimmune disease is your favorite? We got the poll going, Dan. Let's see. Are you guys team lupus or team MS? Let's go team. Let's go teams. Team lupus taking the lead. Let's fucking go. That's right. Team lupus, 80%. Let's fucking go, dude. Lupus for Selena. Lupus for my girl Selena. Let's go right now. We team lupus out here, boy. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm team lupus out here. On God. Did your doctor actually say it may be lupus or is it just ChatGPT?
And again, these are all moments where you could be like, oh, that's distasteful. But again, we're dealing with someone who is in a state where they believe that they have something like this and their audience are being very transparent that they're also going through things and they find comfort in Ethan making jokes about it. So, I mean, you can nitpick anything, but I just don't necessarily know if this topic is something to nitpick. Just kind of let people like...
The doctor's sending me to a rheumatologist. So...
Like I said earlier, my dear Ethan, a referral doesn't mean a diagnosis. And hey, that's just not an answer to the question that was asked. Did your doctor actually say it might be lupus or is it just ChatGPT? Then he proceeds to say the kind of doctor he's going to.
Who says that I don't hook up the fans? Here I am, all my medical records, my deepest, darkest fears. It's all for you guys right here, right now. Buckingham Palace is pleased to announce that I, Ethan Klein, probably have lupus. Big news, Ethan has lupus. No, I don't have an official diagnosis, I'll be honest. But I think I probably do. If there's anything wrong with me, I have lupus. I'm team lupus. So I went to the hematologist, hoping it would be like, you're fine. No.
I mean, this is just coming across to me as someone who's very, very, very stressed about their health and is getting in their own head about it.
In this situation, ChatGPT are doctors because 1 to 320 is elevated, but not as Ethan says through the fucking roof. After this, Ethan says again that he diagnosed himself via ChatGPT.
1 to 320, dude. Stop it right now. I had a long conversation with Chat GPT about my health.
Oh, shit.
And Chat GPT says of all the possible solutions, most likely would be lupus. The other reason that we suspect lupus...
Wait, he went from saying that ChatGPT thinks it's lupus to now we think it's lupus? We in this situation being an AI chatbot and Ethan Klein.
The other reason that we suspect lupus is just because I keep getting these weird face rashes. Now with lupus, you get like these big butterfly rashes. It's very confusing. I don't get any rashes here, but I got a new rash now here, right here on both sides of my nose. It took me a year to determine I had celiac, not lupus. Interesting. But celiac's easy. Just stop eating wheat, right?
Well, for someone in a $9 million house, yes. But for other people who have celiac, like me, for example, it becomes a huge deal because according to a study out of Dalhousie Medical School, on average, gluten-free products were 242% more expensive than regular products.
I think most people with lupus can live a fairly normal life expectancy, which is good. I'll suffer the whole way. I don't care. I just want to be there for the boys.
I'm sure you're fine. But
Why? You're not sure of that?
I'm sure. I know.
What do you mean you're sure? I don't like when people say that.
I'm sure.
You're sure. Why are you sure? What gives you the right to tell me that? You go, man, this is something really bad I'm afraid of happening. I'm sure you're fine. It's like, you're not sure. How do you know?
Ethan's like, yeah, as someone suffering from lupus, I hate when people undermine my issues. Also, lupus isn't that bad and I'm just glad it isn't cancer.
You know, of all the things it could have been, I'll take lupus, I guess. You know what I mean? Take us a little loopy.
But it's not certain it is lupus, right?
No. I give it maybe a 50% chance lupus.
Is that your chance or is that what the doctor's saying?
No, the doctor would never give you a percentage like that. I would say that was potentially after some coaxing of Chat GPT. I forced it to give me.
Okay, bro,
Yeah.
time it. You got to stop with
So
it.
it's possible. How likely is the possibility that it's nothing?
There's a chance, but
Again, I just don't like. We had an entire section that Ethan was profiting off of this. I completely don't agree with that take. I don't think that is at all the truth. And it's like, we're not dealing with the creators that we have online that are faking cancer for views and clips and stuff. We're talking about a podcast that goes on for hours and hours a day where they're talking about this for like 20 minutes of it or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very valid thing that's going on in his life, and it's something that he's talking about. It's very clearly something that's eating him up alive and very stressed about. So just like, there's no need to dissect it. And again, it causes more harm doing that, in my opinion.
it doesn't make sense that it's nothing.
slim.
There is a chance that it's nothing, but like with the white blood cells, the platelets, the
Why
antibodies.
is there 10 minutes left of this video?
Why? ChatGPT is fucking pro.
Because I feel like in this time, like you need positivity and
No, it doesn't bring me down. I need to know.
Even with an employee telling him to stop looking at ChatGPT after admitting to coaxing it into saying what he wants to hear, Ethan gives "I need to know" as an excuse. I think he already knew the answer a long time ago, but sympathy from people around him felt better than just saying it was from a pre-existing esophageal problem.
Now my mom is saying she's mad at you for not telling her about this. Yeah, I know, Mom. I didn't tell you about it. I guess I should have expected you to hear the show. It's because you would be so annoying about it. You know you would be.
Very mature take here. Mom, you would be so cringe and annoying if I told you my medical worries.
It's the constant, like, I can diagnose myself. I don't like when other people do it.
This to me is the grand slam of all grand slams. I can diagnose myself. I don't like when other people do it. I'm not even going to speculate what he means by this because I want you as the viewer to think about it on your own. But let's just take everything into context. Ethan Klein had no symptoms, got a routine checkup, had some elevated levels. Doctor said it was fine and most likely related to a prior medical issue. Then Ethan admittedly coaxed ChatGPT into telling him he likely has lupus.
My blood work came back same as yours. 30% people have abnormal antititers and do not have lupus. Rely on your symptoms more. So my symptoms is part of the confusing part. I don't really have any of the... Okay, this is interesting. Did this from you, Cam?
No, Ethan, we were getting somewhere and you cut yourself off with something unrelated an employee sent you. Someone donated their hard-earned money to give you a very valid suggestion, and because it was more logical than anything Ethan said in this episode, he brushed it off.
Why didn't you say something to us?
Oh, it's just...
Hey, Donna.
Something I've been thinking about. I don't know what it is.
Wait, that directly contradicts Ethan saying at the beginning of this segment,
Buckingham Palace is pleased to announce that I, Ethan Klein, probably have lupus.
it's almost like talking to his mother who has a history of chronic illness makes Ethan shut down, or at least realize his claims are wild. His mother goes on to try and talk to him in a more understandable, less ChatGPT diagnosy way.
Well, you do get tired.
There it is, you see?
Well, it could be a number of things. Maybe you're just anemic.
Ethan didn't tell his mom or his wife
I'm glad I talked about this. I've been stressing hard since this morning.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
about his thoughts until they were brought up on the show, which backs my argument that this was all content brained. If it wasn't for content,
Or so much of their life revolves around their podcasts and they're on live for so long a day that they have conversations they would have off camera on camera. Again, I just think this is also unnecessary.
then maybe, just maybe, this would have stayed off the internet. I'm talking on YouTube about my experiences 15 surgeries in 2 years after being directly affected. Going through health problems are a very difficult time, and turning it into content while undermining other people's experiences is a huge problem. A few episodes later, Ethan gives another health update where he says that he had a CBC panel and everything came back lowered and within the normal to high range. Then Ethan finally goes to the rheumatology appointment where the doctor gives him this information.
Yesterday, I saw a rheumatologist. This facial rash I'm getting here, I'm getting it at the corner of my eyes, I'm getting it here on my nose. So that was one of the concerns. Lupus causes facial rash. But he told me, and which is kind of what I read, is that lupus rash is pretty much all
on the cheeks.
Yeah, it's all right here in this kind of area. I have not had any rashes there. So he looked closely at the rashes and stuff, and he says he believes it to be eczema, most likely.
Eczema? Outside of his prior medical condition? This is the only time we've gotten a fucking diagnosis.
Eczema is great.
That'd be good, yeah.
That'd be awesome. After all this,
I'm not done, bitch.
Okay, all right. It's just some eczema.
I'm not fucking
You had it all
done,
wording.
kid.
Okay, all right.
No, eczema doesn't cause a positive ANA, Dan.
Oops, Ethan. I know that we were responding in the heat of the moment, but that's very false. It can actually cause a positive ANA. According to a study out of Nippon Medical School, 20 to 30% of patients with atopic dermatitis, also known as eczema, are positive for anti-nuclear antibodies. Finally, we are at the part that forced me to make this video. As a viewer, I gave Ethan the benefit of the doubt until this happened.
The rheumatologist, after checking more of my blood points, doesn't believe that I have lupus. There's other biomarkers for it, and they were all negative.
Really?
But my facial rashes are just getting worse. They're not going away. He told me next step to see a dermatologist and see if they can tell us what they think about these rashes. But stop treating it with this steroid Vaseline shit, and it's just coming back so much. I'm gonna try to get it as bad as it can just naturally be. HRT so the derm can get a good look. Are you mad that I don't have lupus, Dan?
I'm not mad, but
You seem mad.
You seem annoyed that I don't have lupus.
this man's been farming lupus for a month.
So true.
There is something wrong.
Okay, that's fair.
The best guess was lupus. Sorry, I don't have lupus, Dan.
Was it the best guess or was it your guess?
No, it was the best guess. It was
ChatGPT's guess?
suspected. It was the most likely.
All right.
Okay,
Well, I'm glad you don't have lupus. Obviously.
doesn't sound like it. Okay, to be fair, I'm going to confess something to you guys. I told ChatGPT all of my symptoms.
Yeah.
And I said, make a list based on how likely you think it is. Lupus was number 1, but there was one I didn't tell you guys that was above lupus.
Uh-oh.
It was that I'm probably fine. I said, do you think what's more likely, lupus or that it's just a false reading? And they said, most likely it's a false reading based on the stats and no symptoms.
You are diabolical.
But it was close. It was close. They had to crunch the numbers.
And again, it's a funny comment. It's a funny thing. Like, haha, whatever. But I'm going to be honest with you. It's like as someone who I stress about my health so much and I stress about my family's health so much. And well, I actually cared less about my health than like my parents' health. For example, I would about, jeez, I can't get comfortable in this fucking seat. See when I start fucking moving around. If you had, did I just cut myself out? Jeez, I'm a mess now. If I had done that and it was like, here's the possibilities, and it was like, number 1, 50% you're fine. Number 2, 50% it's lupus. You do not think that I wouldn't be stressing about that until I got confirmed or denied? And I'm sorry, but you're absolutely ridiculous if you say that you wouldn't as well. If you were sick and you find this information and it goes 50% you're fine, 50% you have cancer, you're telling me that you would not be stressing the fuck out all you'd be talking about until you figured it out? I'm sorry, I would. Maybe you wouldn't. And you know what? That's your own prerogative. If I'd find out that my parents, 50-50, they were fine, 50 they had lupus, 50 they cancer, it would be all I would think about. And they do this live show. It's like, I don't see the need to nitpick this. I don't see the need to nitpick it whatsoever. I believe the harm that's done does not warrant this video from Jake Doolittle. Because I could have very easily been in this position with Ethan. And by the way, I probably would have done the same thing. I would have been coming on here and being like, I'm stressed the fuck out. What if it's this? What if it's this? What if it's this? And I don't think that's a crime, quite frankly. But maybe you disagree and maybe you disagree. But I'm just being honest.
You would literally sign off and be like, all right, guys, I've got lupus.
No, I didn't believe I had lupus. Dude, the antititers still raised. People don't know. And I'm inflamed, man. It's not nothing.
Well, fuck. Before we dig into that a little bit more, let's break down the sentence he just said. I told ChatGPT all of my symptoms, and I said, make a list based on how likely you think it is. Lupus was number 1, but there was one I didn't tell you guys that was above lupus. It was that I'm probably fine. And then laughter ensues. This whole time, ChatGPT never told you it was fucking lupus. You're the only person that said it was lupus. You can't even blame AI on this. AI said that you were most likely fine.
But he did say that AI also told him it was lupus, though, so.
And everything was okay. Later on, we find out that he lied about having lupus to someone with lupus's face.
In one of the interviews on the red carpet, he had a lupus bonding with one of the girls there.
You fiend. You can't do that.
Well, she said, what's the problem you're dealing with right now? I was going to say my dog's dying. I was going to say that.
Stolen valor. Baker.
What's your problem?
I have lupus. I think I have lupus. I blame everything on lupus. Lupus queen. Yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah.
Now, some people outside the chronic illness community may be wondering why.
Again, a very inappropriate moment from Ethan and something he shouldn't have done. I would never condone that in any way. Anyway. But I am someone who stresses about my health so much, my family's health so much, and would I have acted the same way as Ethan in that clip? Probably not have. But would I be thinking about it constantly and be investigating and talking, whatever? Yes. And I'm trying to be very sympathetic towards the fact of someone as well that's a lot older than me. No shade, Ethan. I don't mean it in a shady way. I mean it like someone, what age is he? Like 30s, 40s? As someone who is in that age, which isn't old, isn't, you know what I mean? It's like you're at that age, though, where you're a little bit more concerned about your health. And damn it, I just don't think this was necessary to like, I don't think this was necessary to like nitpick. I'm going to be honest. Are there things there that you can criticize Ethan for? Abso-fucking-lutely. Are there like, but I don't think it warrants this. I don't know.
This matters. Here's a clip to show you why.
Look at this, you guys, from the subreddit. You guys are so out of control. This person went, today I found out my boss has lupus and I laughed in her face. I had literally never heard of it before the H3 episode and it was such a funny bit to me when she told me she was upset. Yo, y'all gotta stop. You can't let the show affect you out there in the real life.
Again, not a funny moment and there's things that you can nitpick, but it's like,
It's a very serious condition. Frankly, y'all shouldn't have been laughing at me. I might still have lupus.
It was such a funny bit to me. I doubt that the original poster was the only one who felt this way. There's a difference between jokes and actual real life diseases, and I feel like if you aren't
And I agree.
symptoms yourself, then maybe you shouldn't share this quote bit with your millions of followers, especially when a doctor never brought up the possibility of lupus. It was all you. In response to Ethan's funny little bit, I decided to take matters into my own hands and speak to people who had firsthand experience with lupus who are willing to tell me their stories. At the time of me interviewing these people, everybody was down to be on camera and have their identities shared to my audience. But after reading some of the shit that people have said on Reddit or my Instagram comments, I am worried for them. So I'm going to be blurring their faces and hiding their identities, but these are 100% real experiences.
Also, prior to this being released, I sent an email out to the people who were interviewed. I let them know that I was receiving threats and people were diminishing my experiences because I disagreed with something Ethan said. 2 out of the 4 people that I interviewed decided to no longer be part of this video for their own safety.
I started having symptoms in like late October, early November of 2018. So it came on right after I got into a car crash. For a long time, we were treating the symptoms as if it was because of the car crash. Nothing was getting better with the treatment. My symptoms were getting worse and worse progressively. And then I got diagnosed in late August of 2019. I'd gone to my GP a few times. I'd gone to the dermatologist a few times. No one figured anything out. And then in July of 2019, I went to the ER because I was having chest pain. So I asked for the chest scan. They took an x-ray, and in the x-ray, there was like some cloudy gray stuff over my chest. But what the doctor said was like, oh, that's just breast tissue. Don't worry about it. 3 weeks later, my mom, who I'm super close with, I text her all the time, noticed that I hadn't texted her that morning. She got worried, so she drove to my apartment and they wouldn't let her in. She called the cops for a wellness check. And so it turned out that I had a seizure. They rushed me to the hospital. I was in neuro ICU for a while. They were trying to figure out what I had for a few days, 3 or 4 days. And one of the rheumatology fellows suggested autoimmune. There's like a list of lupus symptoms, and they say if you have like more than 4 of them, you probably have it. And I think I had 10 out of the 11.
I was looking back, and I think it started around August of 2019. I would randomly get swollen just in one part of my body. I was really tired all the time. I started running fevers on and off, just no reason. I had anemia. Oh, and all my joints. I had a really, really high heart rate too. They did blood work and they did a bone marrow biopsy, and then they sent me to rheumatology because at that point they thought maybe I had juvenile arthritis. That's where I got the diagnosis. They admitted me into the hospital for 6 days. They had to do a kidney biopsy. That was not fun because with my lupus, I was having kidney involvement. They had put me on a medication. Those pills were like without insurance, $1,000 a month, and I was on that for like 2 years.
After I asked these people to share their stories, I sent them a compilation of all the claims that Ethan made lupus-wise. Here are some of their thoughts. I can understand that he's going through a lot right now, and it's scary to know that something's wrong with you, but he really leaned headfirst into the lupus thing when there was no evidence really pointing to it. It's just really frustrating to me that he decided that he most likely had lupus and then told everyone before he had actually seen the rheumatologist who told him it was not lupus. I just wish that he would have waited for an actual diagnosis to talk about things and wait for things to be ruled out. It feels really invalidating the way he talks about lupus. Like to him, it's just not that serious. I get that maybe in the background he was really sorting through all his emotions, but from the clips that I saw, it felt like a slap in the face. Here's what another person said. You can have lupus and continue to test negative for it. It is a constant struggle for some of my friends with lupus, but you have to have symptoms to even be diagnosed with or without a positive test. Inflammation does not automatically equal lupus or any specific autoimmune disease. This whole situation made me so angry I could not even put it into words, especially when people with chronic illness are already fighting so hard every single day to just exist. Now people are shitting on it. Another person wrote back to me and said, he started off by saying he doesn't know what lupus is, and then proceeded to read every single symptom of it and say, no, I don't have that, which to most people I would think would lead them to look at other options. Just for fun, I looked at my numbers from when I was hospitalized, and my ANA was 1 to 1,280 and speckled. Another note, the test that is more specific to lupus diagnosis is actually the dsDNA, not the ANA. I don't want to denigrate how hard it can be to get a diagnosis for lupus or most autoimmune diseases because it's really fucking hard, but it doesn't sit right with me that his reason for not being able to get diagnosed is that he doesn't have symptoms of the disease. He just has a feeling he has it. I don't know, it's frustrating. Lastly, I sent in clips to a medical professional with 27 years of experience, making sure to highlight all of his tests and his symptoms. The doctor wrote back to me with these thoughts. Lupus is definitely a difficult diagnosis and not one made purely on lab results. In fact, the lab test results are many times very nebulous, so working with a physician to review labs, diagnosis, and course of symptoms is very important. People want a black and white lab answer that is a yes or no, but that doesn't exist for this. It also doesn't exist for a lot of rheumatologic diseases, and it's not uncommon to get a lot of worried patients over, quote, abnormal labs that really aren't that abnormal. For example, out of range doesn't mean something bad is going on. This is different from strep test, for instance, where the answer is strep positive or strep negative. Because lupus itself is so variable, many folks read about their symptoms on the internet and come up with the diagnosis when in fact they end up not having lupus. In regards to ChatGPT, if I understood correctly.
Wait, but wait. That person just said many people think that they have lupus before they can ever figure it out or anything like that, right? Which is what you could argue Ethan did. Like these past people that have been saying who have lupus are saying how hard it was to figure out if you had lupus. Sometimes they're symptoms, sometimes they're not. Just basically the overarching part of how hard it is to like find lupus, which feeds into why Ethan would be so stressed about it and thinking that, because as these people with lupus are saying how hard it is to diagnose. I don't necessarily know if this helps the argument, but it just kind of, it is a complicated situation, which is like, why are you making such a big deal of this complicated situation? Because it's causing more of a problem clearly in your life and overall for the conversation.
AI actually said it was probably not lupus, so in that case, I would say the AI was spot on. So I guess that's it. I have spent 4 months gathering information on Ethan and his claims. If all else fails, I hope that at least one person, after watching this video, understands a little bit more about lupus, chronic illness, why it's insane to make claims like this. And for anybody who's actively struggling with lupus or chronic illness who needs financial help, my nonprofit, Never Stop, will be in the description below, and you can apply there. Also, if you feel like it, you can donate to the Never Stop Fund. 10% of all profits from the clothing brand go into the fund, so either way, you're helping people out. Again, this video had no ulterior motives. My goal was to share these...
I mean, with Jake saying, you know, about educating yourself, I mean, I would also push people to have conversations about health And you know what? Sometimes they're uneducated ones and sometimes they're wrong. But it's important to talk about health. And it's important to be educated. Like, all right, we have 10 seconds left.
And how insane I thought they were and other people in the community thought they were. I appreciate you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Again, my final thoughts. I don't see anything wrong with having open conversations about health. Did Ethan throw comedy in there? Yes. Did his community engage with comedy with it? Yes. It's a very open thing that they did. Wow, the sun is set. Fuck me. Do I think Ethan did anything wrong? Overall, not really. And I think the point of how hard it is to get diagnosed with lupus just further proves why he was so stressed about it. I think he hid a lot behind comedy. A lot of people do. A lot of people don't. I think this video is unnecessary. And I don't necessarily know why Jake posted on his Instagram story about how hard, the response has been, and the video is still up, because I mean that kind of goes against the point. But I wanted to talk about it. That's my opinion of it. Let me know yours. We'll talk about it down below, and I'll see you very soon. Au revoir.